Welcome back to Dynamics Compass, where we interview the experts so you don't have to figure it out all out yourself. Today we're joined by Dag Kellefel. Dag's had quite a journey through the Microsoft Dynamics world. He started as a .NET developer who wasn't thrilled about data migration, taught himself AX customizations, and somehow picked up both the technical and functional sides along the way. A decade ago, he dreamt of being a CIO, but now he's leading AI and agent initiatives at MCA Connect, building manufacturing specific IP and working toward that Microsoft MVP status. Um, Thank you so much for coming on today, Dag. Um, it's great to have you. And I wanted to start off by I don't know how many people in the ecosystem know you, because you're not once you hit that MVP status, everyone will know you. But before you hit that status, I'm actually thrilled to have you on as a guest still before you have all the fame. Um, for the audience, could you share something that not a lot of people know about you yet?
Yeah, absolutely. And firstly, thank you for having me, Rory, and happy to share my experience today and looking forward to some interesting conversation. Um,
Likewise.
as far as something that a lot of people don't know is that I've lived in 11 places, not including any sort of college movement, right? In and out of dorm rooms and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born in Hellevoetsluis in the Netherlands
Oh yeah.
and then came over to the States. And I lived mostly in Michigan and Texas, those two states, but I have some other stops along the way. And so a lot of times I can find some sort of connection with someone just based on where I've lived.
Yeah. So are you Dutch?
No, my dad was living there. He worked for ExxonMobil, so he moved around a lot in oil and gas, and
Yeah.
so he was an expat there. And
Okay.
I had dual citizenship until I messed that up when I turned like 18 or 21.
Yeah.
I didn't file the proper paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a shame. I, Depending on what you wanted to do with it, but it gives you easy access to Europe and just do your traveling there. Unless you already done that by that point.
I hadn't, but before the three kids, I got some travel in and really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I still have a bucket list though.
Okay. Which of the 11 places do you have a favorite?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I enjoy the seasons. So I enjoy the snow and the autumn and the spring. Right
Hmm.
now I'm in Texas where there's spring and summer generally. There
Yeah.
really isn't a winter. And if the leaves start changing colors, it's because your tree is dying.
Yeah, not because it's
So
autumn.
that part I sort of miss of Michigan and sort of that fresh spring
Yeah.
smell and breeze. But everywhere I've lived, it has its pluses and minuses. So in Texas, you can play sports year round and you can go outside almost any day of the week and there's
Yeah.
something to do.
Yeah. That's nice. I've having lived in four countries. I also say there's no perfect place. Every place has got its ups and downs. There's no perfect place on earth. And
Hmm.
you're saying the same thing.
Absolutely. It's usually where your family is
Yeah,
where home is.
exactly. Yeah, it sounds very cliche, but it's really true.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
well, thank you for sharing. So we'll jump into your subject matter expertise, because you are the person that runs all the AI initiatives at MCA Connect, is what I understood. Um, you're working with manufacturers and distributors on AI agents every day. When you're scoping out where AI can actually help, how do you identify which processes are good candidates versus which ones are just shiny object syndrome?
Mm. And that's a great question because a lot of companies are asking that exact thing,
Hmm.
right? I hear that CIOs are being asked, how do we use AI and where should we use it? And is it just hype or where do we start? And then a lot of times I get to go into a conference room with companies like that, and we start with some established use cases, areas where we know AI can be used to support the value chain of manufacturers and the supply chain of distributors. And sometimes that means that we land on an AI use case, but occasionally we land on use cases that are just, hey, we need a new solution for this. And it could be in Power Apps, and it doesn't have to be a Copilot Studio type of
Hmm.
thing. Generally, I like to see that there's a strong desire, right, towards making a change.
Yeah.
So, a good use case in my mind is something that is going to change your revenue, your costs, maybe save you time to deliver something or
Hmm.
increase the customer experience. And so if you're not, you know, changing one of those dials, then you probably have a good idea or a good intention and not something that you can align a group of people, a whole organization around building a solution and adopting that solution.
Yeah.
And specific to manufacturing distribution, a lot of times demand planning or demand forecasting is a good AI use case. And
Hmm.
that one isn't really generative AI. When I say generative AI, I mean like ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok
Yeah.
or Anthropic's Claude. So any of those, it's more of a more established prediction use case, right? Given the fact that DAG always buys um, one roll of toilet paper a month. Well, guess what? Probably next month he needs one roll of toilet paper, right? And he
Yeah.
doesn't need to pre-buy a couple cases.
Yeah.
I use that one intentionally. Um, but yeah, so there are other well-established AI use cases in manufacturing that
Yeah.
a lot of them work well on the Microsoft stack, like in AI Foundry or in Copilot Studio.
Yeah. So when you go into a new client, do you often take what you've learned from other clients, like, oh, very likely you can use the same agents here, or do you go in with a blank sheet and then see like, oh, what they need from scratch?
I do a little bit of both. It depends on my audience. So, you know, I appreciated the long introduction about who I am. One of those things was I used to be in delivery, and so I used to be engaged with one customer or
Hmm.
one organization for many years to get to go live, right?
Yeah.
And then now I found myself in a position where I talk to about 100 organizations a year. And so I'm a
That's a lot.
lot more at the surface level, more at the strategic level, less on the button clicks that get you to go live.
Yeah.
But what that lets me do is exactly what you said. I get to take what I learned about what works well for these five other organizations, and then I might ask a probing question at this new organization. Hey, do you also struggle with the fact that it takes a long time to configure a product and get a quote to your customer?
Hmm.
And a lot of times I think I already know the answer, but I
Yeah.
want to ask the question and I want to hear where are the pain points. And we start, drilling into those pain points because a lot of times those are the areas people are most wanting to change is the area that's really that thorn in
Yeah.
the side, and they're willing to put some time and energy and thought behind what could the future look like and does that make sense. And I think too that you had mentioned shiny objects, and that's very easy to want to just deploy the latest technology. I was in IT as well. It's like, wow, we got to find a nail for this hammer because I love the way that hammer looks. It's very shiny, and I
Yeah.
just want to swing that hammer, baby.
Yeah.
And it's not quite like that, right? Like when we get into the room with a bunch of executives or a bunch of let's say it's customer service managers or supply chain managers, they're really thinking about value and speed of how they get things out the door or get things in the door. And the number one thing probably in those settings is really just a realistic expectation of, hey, AI is going to help you it's not likely to replace you, but
Yeah.
I think of it as an AI powered automation. So whenever I hear, oh, it takes too many clicks, or I enter in the PO and then I hit submit and then I have to come back after lunch and double check it because it updates at the noon update in
Yeah.
our system. Whatever those things are, I'm sort of tuning my ear into those pain points that an automation can solve if I'm looking to apply generative AI.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's others like prediction or optimization algorithms, like an inventory optimization algorithm that you can do, and things like that.
Yeah. Um, I might be sidetracking here a little bit, but the people that you're dealing with, are they normally upper management, or you're dealing directly with the people that are actually going to be using the agents?
I've had a little bit of both. Um, Sometimes an organization will come to us and ask, hey, how can I leverage the AI that's inside of Dynamics 365 to get
Hmm.
some value out of, and get increasing value through Dynamics 365?
Yeah.
And those are usually more the doers and not the strategy folk.
Yeah.
Other times I'll get into a room and it's all the C-suite and they're asking like more conceptual questions around how can I responsibly use AI? What
Yeah.
is ethical for me to do? What is the risk and how am I managing and mitigating those risks? And
Hmm.
so you have to have both of those conversations. It really depends on where the organization is. But there's a place for both,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, for
And
sure.
there's different expectations you want to set at both levels as well.
Yeah.
But they're somewhat similar, but it's usually this is not the easy button from Staples. This is something that does take time and it's a project and it's worth undergoing this digital transformation. It's
Yeah.
great that we have a new tool, but choose the right use case and don't think so for an example, right there, let's say a customer organization gets 1,000 emails
Yeah.
every week. Well, you could categorize those and have a Pareto chart. X number for order status, X number product information, X number for quotes, X number for tracking confirmation. So you look at the largest bar and just automate that one. And
Hmm.
so don't think of AI as like, okay, we're going to apply AI and then 100% of those emails are suddenly going to be routed and answered automatically. Define success as let's start with 10%. Okay. And then when you hit 12%, people get excited. It's like, okay, well, now let's define success as 30%.
Hmm.
And that increasing incremental adjustment to an agent, whether you're using Copilot Studio or Foundry or Azure AI, I think that's the best way to success, right? Is small, incremental, and understandable, explicable, auditable
Yeah.
AI. And if you don't have that approach, then you could make the best product in the world, but if you can't explain how it works,
Hmm.
no one's going to want to employ it,
Yeah.
right?
Does that then automatically mean that if you set the smaller goals, you start with the smaller budgets as well? And therefore just starting small to get a ball rolling? Is that the thought behind it as well?
Yeah, there's a little bit of there's a period of time when you have to decide what's the best use case, and
Hmm.
you look at, do we already have the data? What quality is the data in? How
Yeah.
fast can I build out that use case, or what complexity or challenges is that technology going to have in automating? And it's not always so clear cut.
Of course.
Ideally, you arrive somewhere and all the data was already nicely packaged in a data lake, and it was already had clear ownership of who owns the
Wouldn't that be
contact
nice?
information for every single customer account. And now we know that organizations are complex, they're global, they're messy, and you don't always have time to go and sit there and maintain your supplier master when you're just trying to get products to where they need to be as fast as they can.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of meet it in both ways, and sometimes that means we look to AI to identify the issues. Like, show me the anomalies in this data,
Mm.
right? Or in the case of CRM, right? Sometimes we can say, go search for this person on LinkedIn and make a suggestion as to what their job title is. And we'll have a human confirm that. So they're not having to go and do that work. They're not having to copy paste or type it in. They can just hit yes, 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 and maybe double check a few.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Because I've spoken to other people as well, and they said, especially companies that are new to AI and agents, start small, and then when they get the hang of it and get comfortable, like start taking on slightly bigger initiatives. So I thought that's kind of what you were aiming for as well, by also be a bit more conservative, set the expectation a bit lower with the 10%, and then if it's 12%, then we have a win.
Mm-hmm.
But also you forcing them to start small instead of getting overwhelmed. I thought that's also what was part of the thought process.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely. I think that, we organizations didn't have teams that were in charge of digital transformation using
Yeah,
AI, just sitting around and already having done it for 20 years, and they know exactly what the right use case is and
yeah,
who to talk to and how to roll out change management. And so smaller is better,
yeah,
growing into complexity, growing the maturity of the team that builds out and delivers these solutions, and then also sort of building some momentum and excitement through several smaller wins is better than even, let's say, even if you had like the perfect project and you hit a home run on the first try,
yeah,
you know, several smaller wins I think are still more impactful to the organization.
yeah. Because what's the chance you'll hit another home run on the second try, on the second initiative straight out the gate?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you set a high expectation.
exactly. All
Hmm.
right. Um, next topic. When you and I spoke earlier, you mentioned that you've built a smart sourcing agent and you're working on a production costing agent. What made those two areas stand out as high value opportunities for your manufacturing clients?
Oh yeah, I mean it. Like I had mentioned before, it kind of starts with pain points,
Hmm.
and um, with so many disruptions hitting supply chains and suppliers, and the costing being something, and tariffs and
Hmm.
landed cost, and when can I get the actual product in my front doorstep or not? Anything we could do to automate and help those procurement teams was
Yeah,
really top of mind already. And what we've done with the smart sourcing agent is really, really cool. And I think it's a good pattern to have, meaning it works with Dynamics 365, but it actually operates and takes its input data from Microsoft Fabric. And I'll tell you the reason why. So first, what does it do? Smart
yeah,
sourcing agent, it will look at all the information about your supplier. Let's say it's a supplier scorecard. It'll look at a purchase requisition or planned purchase order. And so I need 10 of these to arrive by Tuesday, and I need them in this location, right? So
hmm,
then the smart sourcing agent would pick that up and look at this. Okay, who are my approved vendors for that particular product? When would they be able to deliver to that location? Okay, what price can I get or landed cost can I get for each of those? And so it's going through its checklist, and it understands what those constraints are, right? Which
yeah,
is generally the time. You're A lot of times I hear, well, we'd be willing to spend more if we get it on time. Um, so,
yeah.
the best supplier in a lot of cases is it's low cost, good quality, low risk, and the
And on
ability
time.
to deliver on time. So some of those are objectives, others are constraints.
Yeah,
But what's interesting about that, right, is that you can have the agent make that decision and tell you you need to buy from supplier 28 as opposed to supplier 27 because of the time, even though it's going to cost you 5% more.
yeah,
Um, a human could have done that same thing and it could have taken them 10, 15 minutes, or they could have just relied on, well, last month we bought from supplier 27 and I'll just put that in. What we get through the agent is speed, but also thoroughness. Means
hmm,
it'll always go back and look and make sure we haven't had a couple of returns from that supplier. We don't have any open NCRs, that they delivered on time for our last
Yeah,
purchase from them, and things like that, right? So
that's
it's really
powerful.
impactful, because what we want our procurement team to focus on is really finding new suppliers, negotiating better rates,
Hmm.
understanding where might the price be going. Should we pre-purchase a little bit and make a bet that the cost of silicon is going up, and then make additional margin over the next 3 months, which would be great. So those kind of questions take time to answer.
Yeah,
It takes a deep brain, someone with experience in the industry and connections to industry leaders and your suppliers, to answer those questions. And those are the kinds of questions that we're not answering enough or fast enough, because we're busy filling out purchase requisitions.
yeah, yeah. I can see how that's a very powerful tool, and also a great point to start. Like if you're gonna start exploring the use of agents, I think this is not a quick win, but a logical place to start indeed. Now that you've described it.
Yeah, and so going back to the idea of it's looking at Fabric, Microsoft Fabric is the data layer that's bringing together Dynamics 365 data, but can
Hmm.
also bring together your quality systems data and
Okay.
or any other data sources. So there's some really interesting data sources out there. There is one about cybersecurity risk
Yeah.
for every single supplier. So you can actually purchase that data set and incorporate it into this tool. There's others around that, right? Like geopolitical risk based on country that you could
Yeah.
incorporate. So the world is your oyster, essentially.
Yeah.
But so it starts with the Fabric data, because that's a great place to consolidate all those data sources, regardless of where it's coming from. So maybe you're running Dynamics 365 in most of your locations, but you could still have a few acquisitions that are not on Dynamics 365. That
Yeah.
data about that same supplier could be fed into the agent, so that even one division making a decision has the collective knowledge of all the divisions, regardless of what system they're using. So being that Fabric data plane, if you will, is a great launching place for any of the agents that you have. And then what we did with it is that it will actually go and update Dynamics 365. So it does actually update the purchase order requisition and submit it to workflow. So it will still get looked at by a human,
Hmm.
right, for that sort of double check and approval.
Yeah.
But the majority of the work was done by the agent for you.
That's very impressive. And I've learned something about fabric. So thank you. Um, next question. The production costing agent does root cause analysis on production runs, is what you told me last time. So essentially an autopsy of what happened on the shop floor. Could you walk us through what that looks like in practice?
Yeah, I would love to. This is one of the use cases that really I'm passionate about, because when I was in industry and I saw my organization basically employ people whose job it was to click the end button inside of Dynamics 365.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did a lot more than that, to be honest. But
Yeah.
um, the truth about it is that when you think about what it takes to run a production order through Dynamics or any MES, really, you
Hmm.
start with creation, you estimate it, you put it on the schedule, you're looking at resources and who is capacity constrained. You're then executing on that order, like using material, using people, using um, consumable goods as well. And
Yeah.
there's overhead to this whole thing. And then finally, at the end, you have X number of finished goods that are hopefully 100% perfect without scratches or blemish.
Yeah.
And then you hit end on that order, and then it gets its final cost from Dynamics 365. So you can see it's a very complex process.
Hmm.
It's sort of a great place to start with automation,
Yeah.
because there's just a lot of different people touching the same piece of data. And so what we did there was to have an agent sort of be watching over the production order even as it's happening. So, every organization, when you're winning work, you usually will say, okay, well, what price can I deliver a pen for, right? Well,
Yeah.
I know this piece is going to cost me that. That piece is going to cost me that. I have to stamp this. I have to bend this metal piece. I need to insert an ink cartridge, and then I need to package it. And so all of these steps go into a routing,
Yeah.
and each one has a different skill set that's needed from the user. Different machine gets used. Different raw materials get used. And so at each step, you could ask the question, am I still making money on this? Right? In purchasing, did I buy to my standard? Meaning every sheet metal piece I expect to be $5, which this is an oversimplification. Did I beat that or did I not? Right? Did I lose money on my purchase or not? Then did I use the right piece of material when I'm producing this pen? Because there are substitutions that may be made. So what if there's someone in the shop who can't find the right piece of material, finds something that looks very much the same and probably should be the same, picks it up, uses it, did not know it cost twice as much as the one he should have picked up.
Yeah.
Right? So there immediately the agent could clue someone in, hey, you picked up the wrong piece of material, guys. Let's get this thing back on track, okay?
Yeah.
It could be that you're running, 1,000 pens and 200 into it, you realize that you're running too slow and the operator just needs to crank up the speed. Again, that's an oversimplification, but an agent, every time an action takes place on that production order, has an opportunity to say, are we meeting or exceeding our plan? Number one. And then if by using Fabric, are we meeting or exceeding our average? Are we getting better? Are we trending in a good way or trending in a bad way, or just, operating at the optimal speed?
Yeah.
And then what that does is that gets you to the end where that plant admin or whoever, the production costing person, when they click end, they can have confidence. Oh, we've already checked X, Y, and Z. I can ask the chatbot if I wanted to, hey, why did we not make money on this? Or why did we make so much money on this? And so it just kind of keeps on going, right? Because then think about quality issues or movement of material. And I could keep on going on and on.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Because you have all the data already there, accessible. But if you have someone doing it manually, it will take a lot longer. I can see that if you're trying that this is if you have all the data at least, it should be easier. I have no idea how this really works, but it should be easier to automate, right? As long as you have the data, which is by what you were describing, you have all these data points, all these action thingies. Sorry, that's my
That's
non
a technical
my layman vocabulary. But all these action points sounds like those are data collected as well that can be analyzed and captured by the agent to then help people do their job more accurately.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So one great example is, let's say my estimate or my route says it will take me 5 minutes to produce one part.
Yeah.
All right. And so when I make my production schedule, I'm going to allocate 5 minutes for every part I want to make. And that will be, I'll plan for, let's say, an hour. Now, the agent could look at that when I'm starting my schedule and say, hey, by the way, every time you make that part, it's actually taking you 6 minutes. And that actually means you need an extra 10 minutes, which means everything else gets pushed by 10 minutes after that. So what that can help me with is just to have a realistic expectation of what I can accomplish in a day and
Yeah.
know my true capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. I, that's very powerful. I've said that a few times now during this conversation already, but uh, yeah, the use cases that you're bringing up, I can see how that is very valuable to people in a manufacturing setting.
Yeah,
Um,
and there are a lot of other ones that we're looking at doing. Uh, we're currently working through a warehouse slotting agent that reduces the movement, like of forklifts and other
yeah,
people and movement inside of the warehouse for distribution. And I'll be excited to announce that in the next 6 weeks, something like
yeah,
that.
that's exciting. Um, Something else that you mentioned previous when we spoke. When you compare a production run that cost $4,000 against an estimate of $3,000, the data exists somewhere in the ERP. What does the agent actually do that makes that analysis faster or more valuable than having someone manually dig through screens?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your point is valid, right? There's multiple screens, but really it's looking at the material, time, and overhead or machine cost. And going back to that idea of having a consolidated data platform in Fabric, by having it centralized, whether you're using production execution inside of Dynamics 365 or you're using a different MES or you're using a different quality system or
Hmm.
you have actual data coming from the machines, Fabric can be that place where you just consolidate all of it and centralize it so that the agent has quick access to all of that. So going back to like the trending, are we trending up or down? Is that a good trend? Is that a bad trend? Is our estimate correct? Should we expect the net to lose the next time we run this part? That's a
Yeah,
great question to ask. And so it's more than just, I guess, going through the screens because the agent is doing the analysis on top of that for you.
mm,
And um, we're looking at actually adding that analysis of the agent as a reason code that then we can make a Pareto chart of so that you can then, start with the largest bar and do corrective actions and get to the root cause faster. And we've consolidated both on Fabric, but also with Copilot Studio on top of the Fabric data. So
yeah,
Copilot Studio is allowing us to have a great user experience in front end without having to do all the code behind it
yeah,
and have the connection to Dynamics 365 to be able to update what our standard runtime is or to actually end the order for you if you're comfortable with it doing that
yeah,
or notify someone inside of Teams. So all the connectors from Power Platform are available to us in that way.
yeah. Very. You just said corrective actions would make me think of something else that is probably a bit unrelated. But the agents. So far, what you've been describing is a lot of very fast analytics as well to help the users. Can the agents take actions as well? So when they, for a food manufacturer, for example, they notice, oh, the formula here is way off. We need to cut the production line right now before we waste all these ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Can an agent do something like that, or do you need something completely different for that?
No, I mean you can do that absolutely. Initially, for the production costing agent, we were looking at update the route times, meaning 6 minutes per part instead of 5 minutes,
Yeah,
and then also notifying someone when something goes awry or ending the order if it's within a certain level of tolerance. But your
hmm,
point is valid that depending on what it has access to, we have a lot of actions that we can give it access to take on our behalf.
okay,
And it goes to that crawl, walk, run sort of approach, right? Where
yeah,
first you ask the agent to just be analyzing it and you realize, yeah, this analysis is on point. Or you may say, yeah, it analyzed it correct with the data it had here, but it really needed to know the context and it needed to know a little bit more about the part. So then you
yeah,
go back and you add more part information or process information about that. And then you do another iteration and then the next thing might be, okay, well now let it end or now let it update the schedule and move everything
mm,
out by 10 minutes. So there's a
interesting.
lot of things you can do here. It's ripe for automation,
Yeah,
and there's this journey that the human has to go on too, though, in becoming comfortable with it. Because I still am visiting
yeah,
customers that are not really using production planning, or like the planning engine inside of Dynamics,
Yeah.
like or traditional MRP, they're actually still in Excel,
Yeah.
doing their production sequencing and
Yeah.
doing their planning because they know they have control of it. They know what's happening. They know what decisions are being made, and so there's a huge change management aspect to AI that I think has not been highlighted enough,
Yeah.
that all of us need to understand what the AI is doing, be comfortable with it, and be able to ask it to show its work as well. So even when we've built autonomous agents taking action for you, like that smart sourcing agent too, there's a chat interface also.
Yeah.
Hey, why did you choose supplier 28 for that purchase requisition? And then it will explain all the reasons why, and it could do a comparison chart between the 5 approved vendors for you.
Yeah. That's probably when I use AI or the generative AI, that's the prompt that I use the most. Repeat back to me what you understood. Like I use it all the time. Like I want to make sure it's doing it correctly, and sounds like that has to be the case
Mhm.
in other situations as well. Um, so what I was describing, it sounds like that's the future. We're still first getting used to making sure that the AI is being very accurate, and then start giving it a bit more autonomy, bit by bit, if humans feel comfortable giving away that autonomy. But it could have that capability pretty soon, by what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah. Today, you have that capability. The technology is there. If you ask me, it's us humans that have to keep up.
Okay.
And um, control is one of those things that humans have a very difficult time relinquishing.
Yes. Yeah. Is anyone using the self-driving cars already, or is everyone still holding on to the steering wheel? But
Well, it seems like that technology is here and working already, and yet how many
yeah,
of us are still driving?
exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Uh, I'll move on to the next question. How do manufacturers go beyond having conversations about AI and find compelling AI use cases themselves without a deck coming to not intervene to consult?
hmm Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of times what I feel like needs to happen, and I don't see in enough organizations, is to have a person or team assigned that is really there to focus on continuous improvement.
Hmm.
And that could mean using AI, that could mean, changing what you write on a sheet of paper before you put it into the box and ship it to your customer, right?
Yeah.
It can be small, it can be large, but empowering a continuous improvement team to also have IT along with it and AI capabilities is the best way to, I think, approach the AI revolution.
Yeah.
And if you have a continuous improvement team, it's great because then you already have a muscle or an organizational muscle, so to speak,
Hmm.
that has a team of people who are collaborating with you, that are on your side, that are not there to replace your job, right? Which is a whole nother topic I could
Oh
come
yeah.
back and talk about for
Oh yeah.
another hour. But um, if you don't have a continuous improvement team, you probably just don't know that they exist in the plant. And you just need to elevate that same approach and culture to an organizational level and empower those individuals to get together, or people or parts of your business into a conference room for half a day and talk about their largest pain points, and maybe doing a failure modes and effects criticality analysis to understand why do we sometimes ship things that are not good, and
Yeah.
why does the customer find that and then have a complaint instead of us having the right controls, or whatever that might be from a pain point. The other thing I'll say is any organization should really try to find champions and find who is open to exploring new technology and being that agent of change in their area, and a SME who comes along with them, like I guess a cohort of people around them that listen,
Yeah.
right? So if you can find a Rory in an organization who's just naturally curious and wants to improve and knows where things just are kind of clunky in your organization, that's a great person to talk to, and then hold a workshop for that one process area or that one team or that one process
Yeah.
to understand where can we apply technology to make things better.
So the champion that you're describing, that's not necessarily someone that holds a certain position, but that's a personality traits that's this champion. It's the traits that make them that champion that you're describing,
Yeah.
not the position.
Sometimes I've heard IT call them like allies, right?
Allies.
People who, are interested in learning, right? And
Yeah.
interested in investing in the organization. So they have sort of a personal interest in making things better, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when we apply AI, we're just making employees' lives better. We're not actually affecting a customer. But a
Yeah.
lot of the times, we are making the customer experience better. We are responding to inquiries faster. We are
Yeah.
delivering goods faster. We are
Yeah.
maybe, I heard on a podcast that a lot of the tariffs that have happened have not actually reached the end customer, that the distributors and the manufacturers are trying to work out margin and operate more efficiently to not have to pass along and increase their pricing. And if that is true, that is hugely significant, right? Anytime that we can better control our margins, we don't have to worry about demand dropping because I
Yeah.
am increasing my price.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's a very interesting fact. I'm gonna remember that one about when next time I have a tariff conversation with someone.
Awesome.
Um, you kind of answered this one, but I'll ask it anyway in case there was anything else that you wanted to bring up. If a manufacturer is listening to this and thinking we should explore AI agents, what's the first conversation they should be having internally, and what do they need to figure out before they even talk to a partner like MCA Connect?
Well, I think if you ask a lot of people, they would say, what area of our business do we need to improve? That's a question you have to answer. And then, what is the quality of the data that we have in that area? And it's not that AI can't get started if your data needs a lot of work. It's
Hmm.
that the true value of deploying a piece of AI or a tool, it'll be, the value will be hampered by poor data. And for the ones like Smart Sourcing Agent, you don't want it to make a bad decision based on bad data.
Yeah.
So what I see a lot of organizations doing, and it's been happening for several years now, is really focusing in on the data piece and getting consolidated data from multiple places into
Hmm.
one platform like Microsoft Fabric, and then asking the question, now that we have the data, we have great customer service data, or we have great CRM data, or we have great connectivity into production. Now let's ask the question, what are the AI use cases that make sense? And that's when you do want to identify a partner like MCA Connect and ask the question from those people with experience,
Yeah.
having talked to the 100 manufacturers, or a lot of seen a lot of other organizations bring good examples of AI, bring experience, and then also maybe even some benchmarks on what kind of rate of return you might get out of an investment in a particular area.
Yeah. Because I see the role of a MCA Connect more as a coach as well. Like a lot of companies, they only look internally. They don't really know what's. Yeah, they might be speaking to other companies in their vertical, but not as many as an MCA Connect would. You see what is out there, what is working, what's not working, just like a coach has in any kind of sport, or and even in recruitment we have coaches, and
Yeah.
they can just see this is what's happening, this is what's working for others. You should explore these areas, um, and I think that's a great value add to have in this time when everyone's trying to figure out what to do with AI agents.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's changing at a quite rapid pace. There's
Oh
a
yeah.
major competition between all the model makers and all of the, cloud scale providers. And so navigating all of that and one of the questions that comes up is how do I know if I build it today that it'll function a year from now? Or I shouldn't have recreated it a different way. So
Hmm.
you have to answer that for yourself. The answer is, did you get the ROI out of it before you had to look at an alternative? But
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't feel so great, right? Like us as
Yeah.
humans, once we build something, we want it to last.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just depends on which area you're looking at and what you're building, and that's exactly why partners exist, is to share that knowledge. And there's also other areas. There's an organization called Mesa International. If you're in manufacturing, and it's a Manufacturing Enterprise Solutions Association. It's a
Yeah.
nonprofit, and they hold webinars where companies explain what has worked for them, and sometimes vendors will come on and also say, hey, this is what we've done, this is what
Hmm.
value it brings. But you know there's a little bit of that on every platform apparently.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and um, but it kind of feels like you gave away a little bit of IP, but also as you explained it, like with Fabric, and that you can choose whatever other sources you want to add to it. Like it's what is it? It's like making a whiskey or a rum. Like anyone can make a whiskey and it will taste differently because your combinations and your ratios are slightly different. That's probably the
Hmm.
same with the products and the agents that you've built for your clients, why they work and why other ones might not work as well.
Yeah,
Um,
what we find is that a lot of these solutions, they work well at a surface level, but then there's always, like you brought up, food and beverage, or maybe you might talk about automotive or steel or silicon and high tech electronics. Each of those sub verticals and industries within industries, if you
yeah,
will, have different needs. And so I found more and more so that some of these solutions we're bringing to market are really getting us the 90% of the way there, and there still is something. There's your secret sauce that we want to enhance. There
yeah,
is a piece of data that no one else has used before, and that's what makes you better than the rest of the people
yeah,
out there. So there's always a little bit of work to be done, even just in deploying something that's off the shelf.
yeah, yeah. Which makes this a very interesting space to play in. Like this will never be a rinse and repeat kind of solution. You will always have to tailor it a bit, even if it's the last 10%. You always have to still understand your customer, still understand their problems and their needs, and then how to make sure it works perfectly for them. Um,
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think you're in a really fun role, exciting times for you in the position that you're at and with the things that you're creating.
Yeah, it is very exciting to see all of the changes and how organizations are navigating the new technology. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for sharing all your insights today. I hope you get that MVP status soon as well, and I hope this contributes to that. But yeah, thank you again for coming on today. And if yeah, depending on how the journey goes, I might ask you back on here to share some more insights when we can do like a retro, like what you said back then, 12 months later. How did it turn out? Maybe we should do a session like that as well in
I
the
would
future.
love to watch that session too.
Well, thanks so much, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Rory. Take
Bye,
care.
Doug. Thanks for watching another episode of Dynamics Compass. I started doing the podcast because in my work as a recruiter, I was speaking to all these Dynamics decision makers that had the same kind of questions. So I figured, well, I have a big network of Microsoft Dynamics experts. Why don't I just approach them, interview them, record it, and make all the answers freely available? So if there's a question that you really want answered that is Dynamics related, let me know. Find me on LinkedIn or write to me on Rory at thegoodtalent.co, and I'll find the expert, I'll interview them, and make it freely available so you're informed and you can keep progressing your Microsoft Dynamics journey. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye.